Boom, we are pre-recorded, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, February 27th, and a beautiful morning, and maybe it's your evening, your afternoon. We want to thank you all for joining us today. It's a wonderful day at that. We have been taking a close look at the markets on somewhat of a frequent basis, and we've asked that you guys bring us the tokens you're interested in. Not that we're invested in these. Please remember, none of this is investment advice. And you had been asking about Monero as well as Ripple. Now, I'm going to save those for the end, so if you're interested, we will look at those charts. But for now, I want to dive into the Bitcoin chart and just take a look at a little bit of news that I was interested in. So right off the bat here, looking at CoinGecko, you can see that we've had this market moves as an almost a singular entity. As you can see on the right hand side here for the last 7 days, when you look at the market prices change, they are almost identical. This is an abstraction, I think, mostly based off the sentiments of our market as a whole, and it's one of the reasons why I believe one of the pivotal moments that we're waiting for here is really watching the DXY, or the dollar index, as well as the S&P 500. I believe that the global overall sentiments have a massive effect in our markets, not just because of the relationship to the potential positive outcomes for Bitcoin if the dollar were to fail, but in general, market sentiments, I believe, have a line of empathy and understanding that comes from the fact that most people are going to be affected by a global, let's say recession, whether it comes from the housing market, the auto retail sales, the employment. We've seen negative indicators and signals in almost every single financial niche. Now, the Fed and most of the mainstream media talking points come out much after the recession has already started to say that we've entered one. So we just like to be ahead of the curve here because there are many waves that you can surf and end up being profitable by doing so. Again, we're not that interested in the price movements that we've seen to the upside in Bitcoin or most of these tokens at the moment because we believe that there's a lot of room for downside based off that global market sentiment. So if I dive in, I take a look at the Bitcoin charts here. And again, like I said, we'll take a look at Ripple and Monero for the end because some of you had asked. And I'll give my points and thoughts on Ripple again because I do not believe it is decentralized in any way, and I'm not a promoter or not a fan of that particular token or what they're trying to do whatsoever at all. But I will look at the charts because regardless of if I like it or not, the charts offer valuable information and insight for me to learn more about what's happening in this space. So as we saw for Bitcoin, as soon as we touched that $4,200 line, which we've now touched 4 times in the since December, so in the last almost 6 months here, I guess 4 months. But anyways, so we've got 4 touches of this line. Again, you can drag it to right down here to make it a little more apparent. The reason this is important is because this has become a heavy line of resistance, not support. We haven't been able to break out of it, so it's ended up being our top. Now, if we scroll through here, that large volume bar indicator, the last one we had that was anywhere near that size, is around the $6,500 mark. So we're seeing a very similar consolidation to what we had seen before, but with much less volatility in the price as it moves. So this is an indicator to me that we are going stagnant in the Bitcoin price. I guess in the volatility, if you were to have, I don't think we have a volatility index. I know the stochastic works well for something like that. But the RSI here, you can see we've dipped back down to the 50% in the oversold. And we just don't have much momentum, especially the fact that we've hit this hard flat line around the $4,200 mark. Again, I've been saying for multiple times here that I suspect that the $1,600 area is the bottom that I'm interested in. And then you have people like Tyler Jenks aiming at a $1,000 area. And again, I think most people don't think that it will go below this point. Most people didn't think it would go below 6,000. Now, I had mentioned it would, and everyone gave me flack for saying that we could go to 4,200 quite easily, but I remained optimistic and also looked at the fact that there's always room for upside. The point of this is not to come up with an exact what will happen. It's really a balance of probabilities for what's the best indicator for where we're going next, and it's one of the reasons why I try to chart as often as possible. I like basically grinding in these staggered entry points. So essentially what I had said before, which is not investment advice, that let's say we have $10,000. Let's make it a round number, and I want to invest that $10,000 just into Bitcoin. Let's ignore the rest of the market. An interesting side point for me is the risk association to the price point that it is at. So currently the risk at $3,900 is the downside to that $1,000 to $1,600 areas. To the upside, it's almost at max $5,600. So the risk to the upside is not as rewarding, because if it were to go that high, it's going to turn back around. This is a consolidation phase in the bear market, and we have not left it. Anything that moves to the upside is not considered a bull market run or rally. This is simply the over exuberant excitedness that we would expect from the markets as we see indicators that maybe there's price movement upwards. Bear markets last a long time. Bull markets, the last one we had, lasted just a little bit over like a few months, between the months of March 2017 to January 2017 before we entered. So we had around a 9-month bull market, whereas our bear markets are usually characterized by much longer consolidation periods. So I do suspect that we're going to have a long bear market run, at least the rest of the year, for consolidation, price initiation, and understanding. But to balance that out, again, as you see, the co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak, comes out in his direct quote here, says, "We've seen massive value creation." And when Bloomberg asked Wozniak if he still expect Bitcoin to become the world's currency in the future, which he had expressed in June last year, he again says, "We've also seen massive value destruction in Bitcoin." And that's an important part to note, is that destruction also comes from creation. These are like a manifest set of destiny, almost as your life contract requires death. You cannot have a simply straight up move. There is a fluctuation in the emotional dialogue which takes place in the human psyche, because value is not appropriated by intrinsic value, such as survival, something that you would need to get to the next day. Value in terms of wealth is actually a privilege to be able to create that, because we're not struggling for survival. So if the downside to the market start to occur more people start to struggle for survival, and values of most things will change, because of the perception of value will drag those assets down, because people will just not care. It's one of the reasons why I'm very, very interested in what the rest of the stock market and dollar does in comparison with the Bitcoin and blockchain cryptocurrency world. Another quote here by Steve Wozniak that I really liked as well. He says, Wozniak noted that he sold all of his Bitcoin when it went up high, reiterating what he said last year. "I don't want to be one of those people just watching the price of Bitcoin, so I sold out." One of the reasons why I love watching the price isn't because I'm interested in the price necessarily at all. It's because that education and that growing sphere, which you can get from analyzing the markets without having your emotion invested in it. Because I'm not trying to gain any percentages right now. I'm looking for the entry point. So with that $10,000, my staggered in entry would probably be somewhere around 30%, 15 to 20% around this $3,300 area, because that was the first major line that I had drawn out from our last charts months and months ago, followed by around 22 to 2,400 and around 1,200 to 1,600. And I would probably enter that $2,400 area much heavier than I would the $1,600 area, just to make sure that the risk exposure that I'm gaining is balanced, and that I'm removing as much emotion as possible. Again, not being married to these ideas, not wanting to watch Bitcoin's price just to see your portfolio move is extremely important, and it's one of the best ways to invest, and even better if you can learn how to trade like that. So I'll dive into the last two that I said I wanted to look at, which is Monero, one of the privacy tokens that's been around for almost as long as Bitcoin. Oh wow, I must have opened this on Binance, but that is nowhere near enough data. I would like more of the, let's go to US dollar Kraken. It will give us a bit more lengthy look out for Monero's price over the last while. Oh, okay, here you go. This is these are the styles of hyperwave moves that Tyler Jenks was talking about. And it's actually really beautiful to see this, because this Monero chart looks very, very similar to that of the Bitcoin chart. The only difference here is you can see that the top one wave that Monero had was actually quite a bit lower, somewhere down near the $20 mark. So my assertion likely is that Monero you're going to see probably at around half of the price that it is today. I do like seeing this consolidation, but one of those fundamentals that you can see is actually right here. Since the last top in Monero, you can see multiple times the RSI has been declining, and we've only hit the heavily oversold area once, and that was just recently in November and December, when everything else fell as well. I do suspect that as Bitcoin makes its final last downtrend somewhere in between the $1,200 to $2,200 range, we will see Monero do a half price drop as well. I mean, we saw some big moves characterized out of like Litecoin, Ethereum, EOS, I think at the current moment is still up almost 22%. And you can make a lot of money off these moves, but I'm more interested in the long-term entries and exits because one of my main focuses right now is just building businesses and doing what I enjoy and love. I don't want to waste all of my time, just like Steve Wozniak said, looking at the price of Bitcoin, hoping or waiting that it's going to go in a direction that appeases me. So I just do my best to educate myself and consider that my primary asset in all of this is the education. So with Monero, I do suspect another price drop. I could see us going as low as $23, $20 here as well. And then on the last one, if we take a look at Ripple, a token I am not a fan of, their main point of interest is that they've been selling a suite to the banks to not use the XRP token at all. I wouldn't be surprised if they got smashed and thrown down into a security line. This token itself in no way, shape, or form interests me at all. In my term, it's basically garbage. It's a worthless token. I don't think that it offers any value to anyone that holds it. Everything that they've been building for the banks doesn't use it and they don't need it. The only countries that would need something like the XRP token are the emerging market economies because of the liquidity factors that they go through. The bigger banks wouldn't give two second thoughts to it. They don't need the XRP token. So you're looking at a much smaller portion of the banks that would even be interested in using it. So I do want some more data here on XRP. So we'll go to the Kraken chart as well, just so we can have a longer term outlook for this. Again, here you can see the, I'm not gonna, I would actually consider Ripple probably somewhere near its bottom. If I was to look at this as a speculative trade, remove all my emotions and think to myself, I don't care about Ripple. There's a lot of people that think it's going to do well. You see a massive volume profile support here everywhere between the 30-cent range and the 16-cent range. Now, if it were to drop down to 16 cents, there's nothing holding it back up to go almost all the way down to zero. So I wouldn't suspect that's the case. I do find we'll probably come down to the 24-cent mark in Ripple, just looking very quickly at the VPR. But again, you actually see a very nice consistent profile fill on XRP. This is actually somewhat encouraging for those who are interested in swing trading this token. Not me, anyways, but the point of this is this volume profile fill is actually what we would like to see Bitcoin do in the future and have a much more kind of step growth pattern. Whereas here in Bitcoin, if we zoom out, you can see that there's two massive fill gaps right here between the 6,000 and 4,000 range, and then again between the 3,000 all the way down to the $1,000 range. Again, the VPR here between 1,200 and 890. This is where I suspect we would likely see candle wicks, and also why I agree with Tyler Jenks is that the price could go as low as $1,000 because of that VPR fill. Anyways, this is Tio with the Arcane Bear. I am signing off for the rest of the day. We're going to be dancing in the jungles. I hope for any of you that are going to be down here to join us, pat me on the back, say hello, hugs, high five. I appreciate all the love. It's been a pleasure to meet the Bear family throughout my travels. I'm grateful for that. Leave your thoughts, your comments, your witty remarks down below, whatever they happen to be. Smash that thumbs up button, 2019 style. Subscribe, hit the bell, all that fun, ridiculous YouTube crap that I'm sure you're all overly tired of hearing. You know what to do. Meme review. This is Teal with the Arcane Bear. I'm signing off. We'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you on the other side.